Virtually every fantasy setting has a concept of the soul, of other dimensions, and of the gods. These are rarely matters of faith, but rather matters of fact, though faith might play a role in other ways. However, the world of Eora takes the soul and its existence to a different level. Souls are even more important. In the world of Eora, the world in which Avowed takes place, there's also the science of Animancy, a recurrent theme and topic throughout the series called Pillars of Eternity. Animancy is essentially the science of the soul, a discipline dedicated to understanding the nature of the soul, how one can interact with it, manipulate it, and beyond. Those who practice Animancy are called Animancers. Animancers are, as such, not a class, such as wizard, fighter, or rogue. Rather, the title constitutes a profession and a job. Thus, in theory, anyone could be an Animancer. In order to achieve an understanding of the soul, Animancers employ tools and machines. Animancy technology is often used to manipulate the soul, even if the intentions behind the manipulation are benign, because, as with any science, the science can only be furthered by experimentation. But because of this, the practice of Animancy is highly controversial, as it touches upon the very bedrock of existence for Kith, namely life and death, with its potential to control souls, and to this end, Animancy technology is sometimes abused when captured souls are used to empower constructs, for example, and for other, even less noble purposes. For this reason, Animancy is in fact banned in some nations, such as Deer, as a result of misbegotten soul experiments, whereas in other nations, such as the Valian republics, it is actively encouraged for the sake of both profit and scientific progress. But before we dive more deeply into the science of Animancy, it would behoove us to understand the nature of the soul itself in the context of Eora. Effectively, souls are energy that is bound to bodies. Upon death, the soul energy dissipates and returns to something called the Wheel, a place beyond the material plane where souls are recycled and released back into the material plane to fill Kith or mortal beings. Thus, in practice, this process is a kind of reincarnation. How souls are assigned in the reincarnation process is largely random, although the gods can and do intervene to redirect souls in certain ways that suit their desires. Animancy, therefore, attempts to intervene in this process to produce results that lie outside the scope of the directives of the gods and the natural process of the wheel. But it is important to note that very much akin to natural sciences in our world, Animancy works with what is available rather than adding something novel, with the limits of soul intervention and manipulation bounded by the limits of the understanding of the nature of the soul itself, again in not too dissimilar fashion to the limits of our own science and its applications. One of the great ambitions of Animancers is their desire to heal the body via the soul. Ailments, sometimes called soul maladies, and these occur when something in the reincarnation process goes awry. One such soul malady, possibly one of the most prominent or infamous, depending on how you look at it, is a phenomenon referred to as Hollowborn. Hollowborn refers to children that are born without a soul or spiritual essence, which leads to completely empty shells of Kith, unable to speak, interact, or move, and wholly lacking in awareness, self or otherwise, of their surroundings. Because of this, they are incapable of fending for themselves. Furthermore, they are incapable of accepting nourishment or food, and eventually waste away and die. As such, Animancers have long attempted to find a remedy for the Hollowborn, with mixed results at best. Animancers have attempted a variety of measures, but the one treatment that appeared to at least initially be successful was the transference of animal souls to the empty shell of the Hollowborn infant. This practice was predicated on the idea that animal souls were lacking in defined personality, and as such, the child would grow into his or her soul over time and imprint over the blank slate. This alleged cure was developed in a place called Brackenbury Sanitarium, a soul hospital of sorts, dedicated to understanding the nature of soul maladies, located in Defiance Bay, a city in the Deerwood. Special machinery was developed to transport souls of animals to Hollowborn children, and eventually hundreds of machines were replicated and utilized throughout the Deerwood area. Thousands upon thousands of Hollowborn infants were given this treatment, sometimes using farm animals or pets, and for a time it seemingly worked. Unlike normal Hollowborn children that simply withered away, they had awareness and were able to take care of themselves, though invariably displayed strange tics and psychological features not seen in other children. But It was too early to tell, since, universally, as the children approached puberty, they began to turn into feral monsters, growing fangs and claws, and taking on a gaunt appearance that was both pale and purple at the same time, that became dangerous and risky, and many families were forced to put them down, whilst others released them into the wilderness. Ultimately, animancers concluded that this transformation was the result of a fundamental incompatibility of animal souls and the changes that take place in children's bodies during puberty. But this understanding came too little, too late, as thousands of children had transformed, and there was massive public outcry against the practice of animancy, despite the best intentions of animancers. Mobs formed and practiced vigilante justice, beating or killing animancers, and driving them away, whilst others fled or attempted to become anonymous. This story tells us of the inherent risk of animancy as a science, since the stakes are incredibly high, and oftentimes the results one has from it are mixed at best. Other soul maladies are soul twins, which occurs when a soul is split between one or more individuals, fragmented souls, when a soul is damaged by external forces, or the awakened, a condition that occurs when an individual is haunted by memories of past lives when his soul inhabited other bodies. Animancy differs from necromancy rather subtly, and often has more to do with intention rather than it being a formal distinction. For example, an animancer using soul energy to power an animated construct is practicing animancy, but also in the eyes of many, necromancy. Fundamentally, though, animancy can be described as necromancy when it is used to disrupt the natural cycle of life and death rather than promote it. As mentioned earlier, animancy requires the use of technology. To this end, certain rocks and minerals are indispensable to the science of animancy. One such mineral is copper, and the other is Audra, which has unique soul-conducting and storing properties, which, with the right technology, can be used to manipulate souls, transfer them, create constructs, bind, redirect, or even destroy them. A much rarer but more powerful kind of Audra, called luminous Audra, found primarily in the Deadfire Archipelago, can do everything normal Audra can, and then some, including but not limited to storing far more soul energy, restoring youth, and receiving visions of past lives. Technology developed for animancy will invariably require Audra, and frequently copper, in order to properly work, which is why there are often huge financial incentives to track down Audra. For example, the Valiant Trading Company has invested huge amounts of coin to investigate and dig up luminous Audra in the Deadfire. Animancy, like many things, inspires both fear and admiration, but one thing is clear: it is very powerful, which is why it requires further exploration. And as this was an introduction to the craft, I will likely talk more about the topic in future videos, as I sincerely hope that Avowed offers us a treasure trove of new knowledge concerning animancy and its potential. Furthermore, there are matters that concern animancy but require spoilers, something I would prefer to avoid for the time being. As always, thank you for watching. Do leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll check you out next time.